What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Random Redshirt Podcast. I am one of the hosts, Zach, and hosting with me, as always, is Chris. And for the rest of Picard Season 3, you've seen her here already, but it's Jenny Johnson. How are you guys doing?
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Zach. Awesome to be here. Privyet. Bonjour. Buenos dias. Thank you for everyone for visiting us around the interwebs and the world. Waiting for someone to join from Antarctica. That would be great. But great to be here. Thank you. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm so happy to be here again with you guys. Getting to do this every week is truly the highlight of my Picard experience. So thank you.
Yeah, well, I mean, Picard's been definitely a highlight for all of us, right? And what better thing to do than go through this step by step as we, no pun intended. I literally did not mean to say that we were talking about the show step by step earlier before we started recording. For those of you who don't know, that's an early 90s sitcom from back in the day, part of TGIF. But anyways, yeah, so we've loved this journey so far. I mean, this is a special journey. And I think, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when we look back on this, it's going to be a highlight to have said, yeah, we got a chance to go through. And at every moment, at every episode of this final journey, we think of the next gen crew, we got a chance to talk about it and share our thoughts and feelings with people all over the globe. So it's been awesome so far. And we look forward to finishing this out, as there's only 3 more episodes left. Can you believe it? 3 doesn't seem like enough.
It doesn't. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I know, Chris, TNG is your absolute favorite in the Star Trek franchise, and as you think about, there's only 3 more episodes left, as far as we know, with this crew. How does that make you feel?
Well, I am definitely not looking forward to it ending. I wish it would extend a bit, but yeah, I mean, 3 more episodes. There's a lot to wrap up and explain in this season, so we'll see. It will definitely be a feeling of joy for sure, of a little bit of sadness and melancholy that it will end, but it will be like tremendous joy to see what they do here. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel.
Yeah. What about you, Jedi? I know you're a big TNG fan as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we all are, but you know, in particular.
Yeah. I definitely like it's bringing up the feelings that I had back in the 90s when TNG was ending, when it was like counting down the last few episodes, and that sort of feeling of like, like what's gonna happen. like I felt like the world was ending. This is a little less than that, just because the Star Trek community is so much more than it was then, so it doesn't feel like they're just going to disappear off the face of the earth. Like, it's still, but yeah, I'm not going to be okay at the end of this.
Well, I kind of equate this to, because I'm not looking forward to the final episode, good, bad, or indifferent, whether the episode is a happy send-off for everybody, whether there's some shocking scene where we lose one of the characters, which hopefully that doesn't happen. But regardless of the outcome, it's going to be emotional. I think it's going to be hard because as of right now, at the time of us recording our review here of this the 7th episode of Picard Season 3, we don't know what the final results are going to be. And so it's exciting. It's nerve-wracking. It's a little bit scary, to be honest with you, because there is a part of me in the back of my mind, maybe it's a pessimist side of me, that says, what happens if the series ends and one of those characters is gone? Now, in Star Trek, does anybody really die? I mean, not always, right? I mean, how many times has Data died? Now, granted, he's an android. Do they really die or not? But that's a whole nother story. So yeah, I'm nervous though. I'm nervous because I'm afraid of the potential emotions coming from this final episode. Once we get there, I kind of equate it back to my first watch through at DS9, and I got super emotional that final episode, what we left behind. Very, very powerful. With Voyager, it was more like, okay, it's been 7 seasons. Are they ready to get home yet? It wasn't as emotional. Enterprise just made me mad. That final episode. So yeah,
we don't talk about that.
No, we don't. No, that's not. It's like the episode that shall not be named, like Voldemort. We just don't talk about it.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's very exciting, but kind of scary at the same time, I think, a little bit too, just
Yeah.
as far as where this may end up. That being said, before we jump deep into our review of episode 7 of Picard season 3, I want to mention first the kind of breaking news we got this past week, where Paramount CBS has announced that they are going to be starting production on a new Star Trek series in 2024, which means it's probably not going to be out. My guess is till either the end of the year or sometime in 2025. And that is Star Trek Starfleet Academy. If you guys have not seen that announcement, you can probably find it anywhere on the interwebs, Chris.
That's right.
Whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, or whatever search engine you prefer. And as far as I can tell, from what I've read and what I've seen, it looks like it's going to be live action. I don't think it's going to be another animated series. What are your guys' thoughts? What did you think when you saw the announcement, and what was running through your head as far as possibilities, time periods, anything that just are off the top of your head? What were you thinking when you saw it? Chris, let's start with you real quick. What were your thoughts?
Well, speaking of Voldemort, since you mentioned Voldemort, I was thinking, oh, Starfleet, like Hogwarts. It's gonna be
Oh yeah.
our Starfleet cadets at Hogwarts. So instead of going to a potions class, they'll be going to a temporal dynamics class, like that. So we'll have
That's cool.
all kinds of fun Starfleet professors and cadet hijinks. There you go.
Okay,
That was my
interesting.
thought.
Yeah, Jenny, what about you? What were you thinking when you first saw the announcement? What's been running through your head since then?
I've been just trying to wrap my head around like how like what that looks like, you know, like what and and, and that actually was really helpful, Chris. That actually kind of made my, you know, I was like, oh yeah, because I mean they go to class, but then other stuff happens, and like, you know, yeah, it's very I know they've talked about this for years, but it's something that I never really spent a lot of time thinking about. So I'm honestly just kind of like, whoa, this is, you know, wow, okay, all right, okay, let's see what they got, you know?
Yeah, there's a part of me that when I first saw this announcement, I initially kind of thought of, I believe it was Star Trek Into Darkness, and I'm not trying to bring JJ verse movies into this because it's not canon, at least in my opinion. But I immediately thought of, okay, how many Vulcan insults will we get per episode, and how many Orion women will we see as cadets with dudes hitting on them? I just, you know, this idea of Starfleet and all these different, you know, characters, these different alien species that show up at Starfleet. You know, do we get characters like, you know, a young Jim Kirk who are, you know, a little girl crazy, right? You know, or how many Vulcans like Spock do we get, or, you know, other Vulcans that may be insulting some, you know, people because they're not emotional and they're logical, and, you know, just all these a million different things. Do we get any more Ferengi? Right? Nog was the first one. Do we get more Ferengi? Do we get other Klingons? You know, that type of thing. So lots of different things running through my head of possibilities for alien species and types of characters. I don't know why, but those scenes, no, maybe it wasn't in Star Trek Into Darkness. Was it Into Darkness where Kirk and McCoy and Spock were at Starfleet? Or no, was it the first one? No, it was the first one.
That was the first one, yeah.
Yeah, okay, it's the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Kirk has, like, you know, you see him in that scene where him and the Orion girl are kissing. All of a sudden, Uhura shows up and it's her roommate, and Kirk's hiding under the bed, and then the scenes of them on the steps and they're running around, and Kirk, yeah. So all those types of JJ movie stuff kind of ran through my mind as far as, you know, Starfleet Academy. But it'll be interesting. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens. I'm looking forward to it. I think, Chris, that was a good comparison. You know, I think if the show is half as good as what Harry Potter was, then it's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah, going to be a lot of cadets get into a lot of shenanigans.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. Now, here's the question: do you guys think that in that show that we will get either drop-ins by characters we already know, by the actors who have played them, not like a younger version of themselves? Or do we get a younger version of certain? Do we get a young Kirk? Do we get a young Picard at the Academy? Is it episodic where we jump through around the timeline and see different eras at the Academy? I don't know.
Crazy.
Do you guys have any thoughts about that? What you think we could possibly get? Do we just continue on from Picard's timeline? And it's the Academy like in the 25th century?
I'd heard some chatter about it being like 32nd century. And I don't know if that's the and I don't know if that's the case or not. But just with because on Discovery, like Tilly had gone off to do some teaching at Starfleet Academy, and there were cadets on the show, and
Tilly was teaching.
Yeah. But
Chris
hang
is
on.
like, I refuse to watch now.
So, but number one, I'm very interested, regardless of the timeline, to spend some time on Earth.
Yeah.
In not like in the vineyard, but in Earth the way it is, where people are just like living there and living their lives, but in the future, regardless of what future that is. And they announced that Tawny Newsome, who plays Mariner on Lower Decks, is going to be one of the writers. She got hired on as part of the writing staff, and she's a comedian.
Okay. Well, there come the shenanigans. Then I would say, right, the comedic shenanigans.
Yeah. So the thing about that is that if it is Discovery era, I feel like it may not necessarily be as like deadly serious as Discovery can sometimes be, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
This is my hope.
Yeah.
I hope it's not in 32nd century or whatever it is where Discovery is. I personally, I hope it's, the Picard time period. So like early 25th century, right?
I mean,
and here's why. I want to see an elder statesman, Miles Edward O'Brien, as an instructor at the Academy. That's where he went after DS9 ended, right? So is it too much to ask Terry, can you get Cole Meany to come back and reprise his role as the chief, teaching young whippersnappers at the Academy how to be good engineers? Please, if there's one thing you do, just do that, and I'll be happy.
That's good.
Even if it's only one episode, I'll tune in for the whole season. If that's one episode, we get the chief back.
Yeah,
I'll be happy.
We're asking him now in this podcast. We're asking Terry to do it now, right?
Yes, because we all know Terry is tuning into this episode every week. Maybe, we don't know. But anyways, so if you have never listened to the Random Red Shirt podcast or watched on YouTube, welcome to the show. We appreciate you checking us out. Be sure to hit us up on Facebook or Instagram and follow us there. You can also check out previous episodes of the Random Red Shirt podcast on video down below. And you can also check out all of our episodes in an audio-only format wherever you get your podcasts, your favorite podcast platform. So let's dive into this, Chris and Jenny. Let's jump into the 7th episode of Star Trek Picard, entitled Dominion. Yes, I remember the title this time.
Nice.
Mostly because the name is written down right in front of me. But that's not the point. So we start the episode. It does appear that there has been some time since Commander Riker was, or Commander, wow, that was a TNG flashback. Scratch that. That'll be for the bloopers. No, since Captain Riker has been taken into custody by this version of Starfleet, which is just overrun by changelings, but he's been taken by Vadic, right? And Seven and the Titan, they've tried to come up with some way to find him, and we notice right away that the Titan is hiding itself with basically auxiliary emergency power only in this debris field, floating in space, trying to hide itself. They're monitoring the situation, and right away we see that Seven is having a conversation with a character that we all know, and I think many of us love from her time on board Voyager, and that was Tuvok. So let's start with you, Jenny. In this opening scene, before conversation aside, and what
Mhm.
is kind of revealed in this conversation, aside from that, what were your first initial thoughts of when you saw an older Tuvok pop up on screen?
Well, they did a really good job just sort of setting the tone of the scene. Like it was clear they'd been at this for a while. Everyone seems kind of like, okay, like they're very serious. So yeah, stakes are high, and flip to the view screen, and I was very excited to see him. That was a delightful treat. Um, yeah, just especially just because we just had Seven talking about her time on Voyager, so it's just really like a really nice tie-in, we think. Um, so yeah, super excited to see him. What about you, Chris?
I really, really like that scene. I mean, we open
Mm.
and it's close to where we see Seven in the captain's chair. And then
Yep.
I thought
That
that was,
foreshadowing,
yeah,
maybe.
yeah,
Who knows?
maybe. And it's just Seven. You just see Seven in the captain's chair.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. She's talking and you realize that she's talking to Tuvok. And I really like that there's hesitancy between both of them, right? You
Hmm.
see this like this cautious hesitancy between both of them, and uh they're both kind of prying and prodding what each other knows, like, that's
Yeah.
kind of underneath the conversation. And then I really like that, the captain or Admiral Picard and Shaw and the other folks are on the perimeter out of sight, where they're kind of
Hmm.
monitoring the conversation between Tuvok and Seven to kind of see, oh, is he actually Tuvok? And I love that kind of opening scene where it's really, you get the sense that they're exploring who to really trust in the
Hmm.
Federation, right? And then uh, they're kind of exploring, hey, are they in it like by themselves? Is like everyone kind of in on this conspiracy? So I liked that a lot. I like, setting that up. And then the resolution of that scene, like, I love how they go and those questions they ask, because when Seven says, oh, when she mentions the game of Calto, right? I thought, oh, that was great. That was a
Hmm.
great lead into it. And you think it's gonna go one way and it doesn't go that way. And I thought that was super, because I thought he was Tuvok.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was really interesting. Yeah, it's interesting because when you see her talking with Tuvok, you instantly realize she's not messing around. This isn't a friendly, "Hey Tuvok, what's up? Like, how you
Yeah.
been? Like, what you been up to? Right? Have you played any Calto lately? I beat you, kind of thing." Um, it's very serious. Do you know where Riker is? Have you talked to Admiral Janeway?
Hmm.
Uh, there's been several mentions of Admiral Janeway thus far. I really hope, even if it's just on a view screen, that we get at least one scene with Kate Mulgrew back as the real Janeway, right?
Yeah.
Not just the holographic animated version in Prodigy. That we actually get the physical version of Janeway back in this series. It'd be kind of cool if maybe they're able to get in touch with her and she has not been affected by a changeling and she's able to help them out, because you think she's an admiral, right? So she's really high up in Starfleet. She's
Hmm.
got connections, she's got clearances, she might be able to help out in some way, you know um with this event. So yeah, very interesting. I also find it interesting that in addition to the Calto thing, there's this kind of like build up to it, and then there's a sense of relief, like, okay, you are who you say you are. And then she says, hey, meet us on this planet. And he's
Hmm.
like, okay, yep, sounds good. And then she's like, yeah, a real Vulcan would never agree to meet up on this planet for some reason. I don't Does that planet ring a bell to you guys, as far as, does it have any significance?
She said number one, she just said to meet them there, and then she said that she had her neural
Neural
processors.
Yeah.
patterns that were stabilized or whatever.
Yeah.
Offered, yeah. He had once offered
Yeah.
to help her neural patterns to
Yeah,
stabilize.
that she had that procedure on that planet. So it was a double trick, because apparently there were anti-Kolinar demonstrations on
Mhm.
that planet. which is sort of odd to think about, actually. But she said no Vulcan would ever go there because of those anti-Kolinar demonstrations. And my neural pathways were
Yeah.
my friend Tuvok.
Yeah, my friend Tuvok helped me with them.
And then we then see instantly the Changeling realizes he's caught. And I love the way Tim Russ plays this, because you see the smirk on his face. He didn't get to show emotion that often as a Vulcan, obviously, in Voyager. There were moments he did, but to see that kind of him playing Tuvok but as a Changeling whole interaction, I think was great. And so obviously once they realize that the Changeling, Picard then uses the opportunity to ask this Changeling, this fake Tuvok, right? Like, hey, do you know where Riker is? And then, unfortunately, he changes into Jack, right? And says something to the effect of, like, you know, he's good as dead, just like the rest of the crew, and blah 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 blah. That
or
was
changes
that
into
was,
Riker.
Turns into Riker, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he turns into Riker. I'm sorry.
Face.
That's right. Zombie face Riker. He didn't turn into Jack, did he? He turned into Riker. My bad. Yeah. So that whole scene was very interesting. That was a very creepy looking Riker. Did anybody else feel unsettled a little bit by that? By the overall look of
that was
him?
Like zombie Riker. It was like, he's as good as dead. This is what's left of him, basically. Yeah.
I agree. A great job with that. Great job with Zombie Riker.
Yeah.
That's a good name. Zombie Riker. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, we're gonna have, you might want to patent that, because that could be like a T-shirt or on a copyright that on a T-shirt or something like that, and own the dibs on that, and be some future Star Trek convention T-shirts to sell.
Yeah.
So, but this whole time this is happening, right? They're trying to cut this call off because it's almost like they realize that there's a trace. They're trying to trace where the signal's coming from on Seven's end, and they know they've got to get it cut off. Geordi finally gets the signal cut off just in time, because they know if they get traced, they're going to be found out. And so once the call ends, you know, Geordi's like, look, we can't keep doing this, right? We can't keep doing this. To me, that tells me that they weren't reaching out to Tuvok, that Tuvok, quote unquote Tuvok, was reaching out to them. So they know that they're being hunted. They know that they're trying to be found. And that puts a whole different spin on it, on the whole situation. We then go later into the ready room where, you know, Picard's asking Geordi, hey, have you heard from Worf? Have you heard from Raffi? Right. They're off on their own mission to rescue Riker, but there's no news. Right. And this Changeling presence is very looming. Beverly, okay, this is interesting. Now I want to get your take on this. Beverly suggests that there could be a way to exploit these evolved or different versions of changelings, but what it would take would be basically genocide. That put me into this idea of, all right, if I was in those shoes and I'm approached that situation, what do I do? Because you think about it, right? In the Dominion War, the Federation tried to commit genocide, right? They unleashed a virus on the changelings that, in a sense, would have killed them all.
Yeah.
So what were your guys' thoughts when Beverly's like, hey, we can do this, but it's going to be genocide? Jenny, what were you thinking on that?
It was, I mean, it's definitely interesting to see and understandable, because they're in a impossible position right now. Like they're desperate. They're really desperate. They're just being constantly chased, and they're hiding, and they're just trying to come up with any possible way to sort this out. Plus you've got the added level of it. Beverly, it's her son, that she's that's being put in all this danger. So it's yeah, like, I mean, it makes sense, but it's also very disturbing also coming from Beverly, what with her Hippocratic oath.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
and
yeah.
all. Yeah.
Yeah. What were your thoughts, Chris?
I love when they have these dilemmas in Star Trek
Mm.
for
Mhm.
sure, right? So, and I
Moral
love that.
dilemmas.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love that Beverly is the one that says this. Hey, that possibly there's a way, to gain an advantage on the changelings. This would involve like targeting them biologically. Um,
Yeah.
and then she poses the question, like you said, Jenny, she brings up the Hippocratic oath, and then she poses the question to herself of when is crossing the line. And
Hmm.
and I love that because her intent is good, right? Her intent is, hey, we have a way where that can help us, where we can gain an advantage, where we can kind of come out of this to fight our enemy. But along with that, along with the goodness that's there and goodness with that intent, um, comes
Hmm.
comes comes the other side of hey, maybe you're not living up to the values that you have, right?
Yeah,
As a doctor, like as an organization.
definitely.
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, especially, thinking back to like when they had Hugh on the ship in Iborg, and she was so against the the idea of putting a virus in him and sending him back to the Borg, um, which is a kind of a genocidal sort of thing to do, So it's just really interesting seeing her like flipped like that.
I love that you brought up Hugh because Hugh I thought of when I was watching that scene. I was thinking of Hugh,
Mm,
right? And so thinking of that, yeah, that's what happened. Awesome.
Yeah, it's a moral dilemma, right? You think about I was kind of thinking too back to like, okay, think about World War II, right? And you have Robert Oppenheimer who creates the
hmm.
the first atomic nuclear weapon, atomic bomb, and his quote says, "Now I have become death, the destroyer of worlds." And I think back to, you know, if if they were to do this, right? If they were to release something on these changelings, which, oh, by the way, kind of already sort of happened before. Well,
Mm,
it didn't kind of, it did with the first Dominion War. Would Beverly feel the same way as Robert Oppenheimer? Right? Would
hmm.
she feel the same way if she created something that could be, considered genocide in this case? And so I think that's a good thing to bring up, Chris, where you mentioned that, yeah, this is a moral dilemma here. Beverly is the perfect character to bring this idea up, right?
Hmm.
She's sworn an oath to help people, right? To heal people, not to kill. And this is a huge moral dilemma because her son's involved. I'm guessing, and this is just my guess. I'm guessing that given the situation, if there were nothing to do with her son Jack, that she probably wouldn't even question it. It'd be like, yeah, we got to do this.
Hmm.
We got to do this because this is going to save millions and billions of lives in the Federation. But her
Hmm.
son, or I mean, sorry, take it back. She may not want to do it. She may say, no,
Right.
this is wrong, blah, blah, but her son's involved now. With their son involved, she may say, well, yeah, I mean, we probably got to do this. But it's interesting. The conversation in this meeting does shift a little bit, and they start trying to determine, well, okay, we know Picard's body was stolen from Daystrom, right? We know that that's significant,
Hmm.
and the question kind of becomes amongst them, what are the changelings going to do with Picard's body? I think it was interesting. Geordi brings up the idea of, well, what if they took your body and used Jack's DNA and made this like perfect Picard replica who could
Hmm.
pass DNA tests and blood tests? And then, he's there for Frontier Day and he can lead the way into whatever catastrophe that they're planning. Um, it's yeah, that Picard's body being stolen creates a huge wrench in the fire in this case, right? So it's not all apparent yet, but they're certainly
Yeah.
starting to try to piece things together. At this point in time, now we haven't covered the whole episode yet, but at this point in
Hmm.
time, do you guys have any thoughts of what you think might happen? Let's start with you, Jenny. What do you think? So Picard's body's been stolen, right? The changelings are
Hmm.
behind it. They want Jack. We don't know
Hmm.
why yet. Please, dear Lord, make him not be a changeling. Um, I'll say it again. What do you think? Where do you think they might be headed?
I mean, it goes into like the conversations with Vatic a little later on, in terms of Jack, like in terms of where that fits in, and then also like what Lore says about the or sorry, what Data says about the anomalous form inside Picard's body that may not have been Irumodic syndrome, like that he may have been misdiagnosed. I don't know. Basically. Like, and I'm trying again. I'm
I don't
trying
mean
not
to ask
to like
you to speculate, but
no,
speculate.
no. I mean, it's. I'm trying to walk this line of like speculating without turning it into like more than I don't know. I feel like we need to talk about the conversation with Vatic and what we think that was.
Yeah, we're gonna get there. That's for sure.
Yeah.
We will get there. Absolutely. That's gonna be an important part of this episode. Absolutely. Yeah. Chris, what do you think? So they've stolen Picard's body, which they apparently think was all the stuff that they could have stolen at Daystrom, and they take a dead dude's body of all things, right? So clearly that body is incredibly important to them and whatever they're planning. What are you thinking right now as far as, you know, maybe where this could be headed? Do you think Geordi's onto the right thing, or do you think that that there might be something else going on?
I did think Geordi was onto the right thing at first, where like, yes, be some sort of Picard imposter, right? And you know, Picard will absolutely have a high profile at Frontier Day, and then the perfect opportunity to, you know, to either destroy all of Starfleet leadership at the time when he's there, and kind of bring Starfleet down to its knees and to ashes like Vatic wants. There was something that I thought about when there was something else that I thought about when they were talking about Picard's body and extracting something else from Picard's body other than DNA. And I thought, oh, this is what I thought. I don't know at all if it's going to go this direction, but I thought, oh, would they have tried to extract some part of Borg technology from his body, like when he was Locutus, and then have some connection with the Borg? That's where I went, but I'm sure there could be a whole lot of other things too with it. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, Jenny, you've done the most recent watch through of TNG. I don't remember where, or maybe either one of you can remember this. Was there anything Borg left inside Picard's body? Was there ever any mention of that? I can't remember if there was or not. It's interesting you say that, Chris, because I can't think if that was mentioned or not. Maybe it was, and I'm just totally spacing it.
I am pretty confident that they didn't have to leave pieces behind the way that they did with Seven, because he was only assimilated for a really short period of time.
Yeah.
I know that there's some discussion about whether he still has any nanoprobes in him. With like in First Contact, where he had the sort of he seemed to be able to like sense them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I personally am not convinced that this is Borg related. Partly because there's been a lot of Borg in this series.
Yeah. Well, the whole first season was basically Borg, right? I mean, with the rebuilt cube and Hugh and all this other stuff.
And, and then the Borg, not collective, but the Borgati, the
Borgati.
You know.
Yes, the Gerati Borg Queen.
And the Borg Queen. So there's been a lot of Borg, and I feel like that has been kind of tied up. I think.
Interesting. I think you might be right, though. Both you might be right. I think there's a real strong possibility that at a bare minimum that he would have some sort of level of nanoprobes left at the bare minimum.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something left in his body that's actual hardware. But that's a good point you make. I kind of would be shocked maybe if there wasn't at least a small trace amount of nanoprobes left.
Yeah.
And actually, and then that would explain the the sensing and everything.
Even as you say that, I'm like, yeah, so I think more accurately, I don't think the big bad is the Borg, but it doesn't necessarily mean that something about him couldn't be Borg related.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in addition to the scene in this ready room or this conference room, whatever it is in the Titan, we also flash over to I think it's sick bay, or no, maybe it's not sick bay, some room. I don't know if they say what it is, where Data, Lore, B4, the quadruple trifecta thing is down there. And we've seen that both Geordi and his daughter, Alondra, have been trying to figure out how to make this whole thing with Data and Lore work, because they've figured out inside of his positronic brain that there's like a wall that's mentioned, right? Where you have kind of Data on one side and Lore on the other. And there's, Geordi's talking something about, well, what happens if the curtain comes down? Would Data be able to be strong enough to fight off Lore, or would Lore overtake it and become everything? And I mean, Lore was a pretty like insane character in TNG. He wasn't the most rational. I mean, he was nuts. I mean, I sometimes think we forget about when we talk about all these villains of Star Trek, right? Whether it's Khan, whether it's the Borg, I mean, you name it, Q. We kind of lose sight of Lore a little bit, because Lore is stronger than the Borg. He's stronger than, I mean, he's got Data's strength, and yet he's completely insane. So it's a interesting dilemma that they're dealing with. It's also interesting too that this particular version of Data does remember some of his time on the Enterprise. And he actually references, I believe there's a reference to the scimitar from Nemesis. But there's still that dueling personality between Lore and Data. And you notice in this scene that Lore is taking every chance he can get to, basically taunt Picard, right? And be like, oh, old man, and you remember anything, and just very like, snotty and just obnoxious, which is what we've come to expect from Lore. And so Geordi basically tells Picard, hey, look, they're fighting for dominance here in this body. It's like having somebody who's got multiple personalities, right? There's this fight for which personality is the strongest and is going to take control. Let's start with you, Chris, in this one, because I know you have your soapbox about Data's death in season 1, and you're welcome to say anything from that, obviously, that you want. But I'm curious on, as we continue to see this development on what we're getting from this body that inhabits Data and Lore and everything. What are your feelings? Are you more frustrated by this? Do you wish they would have just left Data dead, or what is this doing to you internally?
Internally, what is it doing to me? No, this is not doing anything bad to me internally. So rest thankful for that, Zach. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. I think for Data, like I said in our last episode, like if there was going to be a way to bring Data back, I really felt that the way they did it in this season 3 was the way to do it. I thought that was great. And only with season 1, I think season 1 and the conclusion of season 1 just took away from people's raw feelings of what they could feel on this way that they brought Data back in season 3. So my feeling on how they're bringing them back, and this new kind of vessel that Data is, and having both Lore and Data in the same vessel, as well as the memories of B4 and Soong, I think they're all great, right? I think those are all great. I really appreciated, Picard says like a few times, hey, this is hard, this is still hard, and this is too much. And someone also brings up the idea of, well, can we just erase Lore from the positronic brain, and I think Geordi or Alondra says, no, this is so far advanced, we don't even know how it's going to do that. There's this line separating the personalities, and we don't know what'll happen if that line goes away. And they don't know enough at the moment to know what's going to happen, and they're just afraid to do it. So what I like is setting up this idea of those very distinct personalities of lore. So lore being that, so lore is he's a madman, right? He has these delusions, but he also has the capacity for emotion and ambition. So his ambitions like go like way far, right? But he's got emotion, he's got ambition. And then you have Data, who is a very, very pure personality, and who has aspiration himself and wants to be a best version. And I like the idea that was either Geordi or Alondra that says, hey, there's this line here, but there's one vessel, right? There's one vessel. There's this new vessel that's Data. So it's the idea that eventually, what I think and what I like is that there has to be some integration of both the light and the dark side that is this new Data right now, right? And so that harmony has to happen for that creation of Data to become an actualized like new version of Data. And I like that there are both the lore and the Data in the same kind of vessel. And then for me, I don't know how it'll go, but it's coming to terms with those kind of dualities in this new being that's there. And then when those come together, it's going to be a whole new, even more greater thing than it could be, by lore or Data itself. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah. Jenny, what about you?
That's very much where I'm at with it. Like I feel there's so much potential here for something new or something like an evolution, like we were talking about last time. Yes. And one thing that's stood out to me, when they first woke him up at Daystrom, he said at one point when he was sort of going through the personalities, like he was sort of like, I'm before, I'm Data, and then he said, I'm more. And then again in this episode, somebody said something about like no more, referring to him, and I'm like, more. Data, lore, more. I don't know.
Dr.
Regardless of whether that's a name, I think it's an interesting, if you just thinking about, he's this, but he's also more. So not necessarily the name more, but just
I mean, Dr. Soon's fascination with quirky names has no end, so may not be wrong. Yeah, it's very, very interesting. My thoughts on this would pretty much just be, what he said, because that was good. I can't put it better. So well done, Chris. Yeah, well done. So in between Lore's, outbursts and him, picking on Picard and calling him old and everything, Data does reveal that,
which was funny.
Yeah, which was it was
so
very
rude. It
was so lore, right? Yeah. Yeah. But Data does reveal that there is some interest in Picard, the syndrome Picard has, right? That Irumodic syndrome. It doesn't really explain the particular issue that we have, but as lore takes back over again, Data is, it's interesting because it flips. So Data is now asking Picard for help, which Picard, look what he went through, right? He saw Data sacrifice himself on the scimitar. He watches Data die again in this consciousness thing that is Chris's favorite scene from the Star Trek series thus far.
Would never happen.
I'm sorry, Chris. I couldn't help myself there. And so and now he's dealing with this situation, right? It's just it's too much, right? I mean, you think about that, right? It would be a lot for anybody to ask anybody who could be, watching your best friend go through that 3 different times. And so it's overwhelming, and it's a tough situation. It's a tough situation for Picard to be in, I think. I think it's tough for Geordi to be in as his best friend. I think it's tough for Data, obviously. But if they lift that as you mentioned, Chris, if they lift that kind of that wall, right, that curtain in between Data and Lore, Geordi's worried that it's going to be Lore that takes over, that Data's personality will lose out. And it's not something I think that Geordi could handle, right? Because he knows his best friend's in there. But potentially the only way to make it work could be the downfall of Data, right? And so that's a tough situation. We'll talk about the scene later between Geordi and Data / Lore at that door. Oh Lord, it's gonna be hard to talk about. Okay, so then we flash over to the Shrike, and we have Vadic there, and Vadic's basically mentioning that Picard's allies, which in this case would be Riker and Deanna, are not the easiest people to break. Riker especially. It's not like, I mean, come on, Riker's been interrogated before. He's been to the ringer a few times. He knows the whole rigmarole. It's not like he's going to just go, okay, don't shoot, I'll tell you everything. That's not how that works. And but obviously Vadic has mentioned, and that time's running out, right? And they're not breaking fast enough. So this is where that weird changeling head is telling her, like, you better make it happen soon. You're running out of time. And it's clear that this changeling, this particular changeling, this bad one, is the architect behind, I think, a lot of the plans. And it's not happy that Vadic didn't capture Jack. They must have had some timeline that they had come up with, right? Like, hey, this is how it's going to happen. This is how we're going to capture him. And then it didn't happen. And so this other changeling's really mad. But obviously Vadic's got a little bit of a, she's like, all right. Yeah, I just got kicked in the butt. It's time to get going. we got to bring this. We got to bring Jack in, right? And then we go back to the Titan again, and Jack's red eyes light up again, and that whole thing's in the forefront. And we notice that Jack's kind of getting a little close there to Sydney. After Geordi already told him, stay away from my daughter. He's now, here's the interesting thing, though. Okay, this scene, first of all, reminded me of high school. It's like that awkward, like, I hold her hand, the whole, like, I'm gonna just grab her finger with my finger, and kind of, awkward teenagehood there. But what I found very interesting, though, in the whole thing was that it's evident that he can read her thoughts. That was a bit of an interesting thing. We heard him hearing this female voice in his head, right? Having these hallucinations that he eventually is like, oh, this is just part of that syndrome. I know I have this thing now, so I've got this syndrome. But it's evident that he can hear her voice. And then Jack's trying to be all James Dean. For you younger folk, James Dean was like the heartthrob guy back in the 1950s, a Rebel Without a Cause and East of Eden. And my grandmother would be proud, by the way, referencing those old movies.
There you go. Nice.
Yeah, hey, I'll tell you what, though, I love me some Rebel Without a Cause. That's a heck of a movie. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. But yeah, it's a bit of an awkward moment in the turbo lift. What did you guys think when you first saw that? Let's start with you in this one, Chris. What was your thought on this whole Sydney and Jack exchange on the turbo lift, the little romance building?
I thought it was a cute scene. Yeah, I did. I mean, it was, the episode before when you had Geordi say, like, stay away from my daughter, and their moment on the turbo lift where you have this, Jack having this dialogue with Sydney, and he's being kind of funny, and he's nervous and he's awkward, and he's saying, but how big are your quarters? And I have nice
Mm.
quarters. And um, I thought it was very, 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 very cute. And then, at the end, when Sydney is kind of exiting, and you see, something happening with Jack in his eyes and his mind, and Sydney kind of looking at him, because Sydney's kind of understanding that, well, hey, something's kind of off
Mhm.
here, right? And
Yeah.
she's like, why did you do that? Like, why did you touch my hand? I think. So I thought it was cute, and I thought it kind of set up um, some more things with Jack, and also set up some questions in Sydney's mind, right? She's like, something's off with Jack. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
I thought it was a good scene. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Jenny?
Yeah, just definitely sort of like establishing a little more of a connection with them, a little more of, hey, maybe this isn't Irumodic syndrome,
Mm.
because I'm pretty sure it doesn't give you superpowers. Um, you know, that there's definitely more to what's going on with Jack than just a medical condition. It's definitely not that. So it, and then even to have him having those hallucinations almost in a more kind of casual way, the fact that he like it was just happening and it wasn't that sort of scary thing where he's, he didn't try to kill her, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah, just I mean more questions definitely.
Yeah, for sure. I did find it interesting. So you mentioned Chris when she gets off the turbo lift and turns around and looks at him. His eyes glow red, but it doesn't seem like she realizes that his eyes glow red. So I'm guessing that is a reveal that no one else can see his eyes turn red. Only us as
Mhm.
the audience can. That changes things, I think, a little bit because there's other scenes in previous episodes where his eyes glow red and they almost make it seem like, okay, maybe somebody noticed or it happens at a time when no one's really looking at him. Now we see somebody staring right at him when it happens.
Yeah.
And I don't think she notices. So that's also very interesting that it may not be visible to everybody else.
Mhm.
I thought it was funny though when she's like, "Oh, maybe he just touched my hand or something like that," and then he does it, and she's like, did you just? Can you read my mind?" Like that thought of
Mhm.
like, "How did you know that I was?" And then maybe she starts connecting. I mean, she's a LaForge. She's smart, right? I mean, she's got some good
Yeah.
deductive reasoning going on here. Her her that whole line of families pretty darn smart. I mean, Geordie's parents were in Starfleet. They
Yeah.
were pretty accomplished officers, right?
Mhm.
I think that there's the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, which I believe was actually quoted in this episode.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
all right. Yeah.
yeah, I'm
Did,
pretty sure they
did the
quoted
apple
that.
fall far, or did the tree move?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was that lore that says
Yeah.
that, I think. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, very interesting.
Hmm.
But yeah, these weird things are flaring back up again, and so Jack comes to the bridge and tries to find Picard, and he gets there, and of course is interrupted, and there's another trace coming by Starfleet.
Hmm.
The thing though is it's in addition to this compromise prefix code, which they're thinking, oh, Picard comes to the conclusion, oh, it could be from Riker. And so Jack and Picard head in the ready room. They have a little heart to heart. And Jack, I think the weight of things is starting to catch up, right?
Hmm.
The weight of people are dying. They're all after me. I'm just going to give myself up. I don't want anybody else to die. Um, he even mentions too, hey, he's got a family. He's got a
Hmm.
wife. He's got a daughter. I don't want him to die for me. Like, who am I? Who am I? Why should they die for me? What were your guys' thoughts as Jack's starting to? I think the weight and the reality is starting to set in on him. Before it was just, hey, these people chasing me, whatever. I think the weight's really starting to sink. So, Jenny, let's start with you. What did you think when you saw Jack's kind of internal, you know, his looking inward and the weight that it was starting to have on him?
I think I think he's yeah, I mean it's a lot. It's literally, it's like it's heavy on him. And I thought it was interesting when he was saying, you know, to to know that people have died for me, or that people are going to die for me, you know, and sort of saying to Picard, like do you understand what that feels like? And it was almost, Picard sort of didn't really get a chance, or didn't sort of, it was almost like he didn't know how to say it, but he does know what that's like.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, and he started telling him like that he doesn't feel normal, or that he has never felt completely normal, that he's always sort of felt like something was wrong. And then he starts to say, I can hear things in my mind. And then he doesn't finish telling him. You know. Oh,
Yeah. Does he not finish, or does the scene cut? That's a great point you had.
He doesn't finish because he sort of, I think he feels this is ridiculous. Like I can't be hearing people's thoughts, you know, like, and so instead of sort of finishing what he's saying, he kind of like, and then Picard sort of starts talking to fill it in, you know, to sort of fill in so it doesn't. That's when Picard gets the idea to let her come, basically. But
Yeah.
it sort of cuts off what Jack was saying. I think the thing is, I mean, we've seen time and time again with this particular crew, I mean, that if somebody is having a problem, they can go to the crew and everybody's going to believe them. They might think that's pretty weird, but everybody is always willing to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, you know, like, and we're going to get to the bottom of this, you know. A lot of good examples actually going back to Beverly in TNG, like in Remember Me and Clues, where the crew is being presented with something very weird and they're just like, okay, all right, we're going to sort this out. But Jack doesn't have that experience. So, and he's so used to kind of doing things on his own to some extent, that it's interesting to see him holding back when he's with the people who are the most likely to actually try to help him. It's frustrating.
I love that you mentioned probably my favorite episode of TNG, Clues.
Clues?
I love a good,
Clues, yeah.
I love a good whodunit murder mystery,
Yeah.
like the game Clue, the movie Clue. I love those kind of things. So yeah, very, very interesting. Yeah. Chris, what about you? What were you thinking as you're seeing Jack come to the realization of the reality of things and the weight that's now bearing down on him from all the death and everything that's been happening, that he believed it's his fault. That's what he feels like. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was of course, a very human reaction from Jack, right? And so he certainly doesn't want people to suffer because of him or die because of him, and yet they are. And so he's trying to explain to his dad now that I feel terrible that all these people are suffering, and this is all because of me. And I can end this if we just call the Shrike and we call Vadic. I can end this if we call them and I just get myself up. And what value do I have? I'm just one life amongst all these other lives here. Why am I more important? And I love that question was posed, and I love that he's posing that question to his dad, and that his dad has gone through all of these kinds of decisions before, and you see that on his face, or at least I could see that. I could see that on his face, right? So Picard has often had to go, yeah, how much would we go? What efforts would we go to save one life? And the answer is all to save one life. They would do whatever it takes to save one life. They would do whatever it takes to protect someone. And so that's part of Picard's only his own personal values, right? But that's what he's displayed when he's had to do a lot of those choices before. And I love that that's there now. He's got his son in front of him, and then his son's kind of explaining, like, and I'm not right in the head, at the same time, something's wrong with me, and I'm hearing voices, and ever since, I was growing up, I've had these problems. And I like that Picard's like, well, tell me what you hear. So I'm really interested in like how that comes about and what we learn from there. But when when I was watching that scene, right, this is not only in Star Trek, but like in other films we've had, like we've talked about Saving Private Ryan, and the efforts that we will do as people if to protect someone if someone is in danger. So I like that that's there, but it's natural that Jack would go, hey, um, I'm causing all of these people to suffer. I'm causing all of these people to die. The logical thing for me is to give myself up. And you can look at it from that certain point of view, like, okay, that could be a logical thing, right? Sacrifice one for the good of the many, right? And so that's that form of maybe like utilitarian or Kantian like ethics that's there, but it's not the human thing to do either, right? So I like that that's there.
You sound very Vulcan, Chris.
That's good.
No. Well, that's what right.
Yeah.
So the Vulcans would practice
yeah.
that kind of ethical decision making. So yeah. But Zach, how about you? What'd you think?
Yeah, what you said.
No.
No, I if I was in Jack's shoes, I'd probably do the same thing. I'd be like, like, this isn't worth it. It's not where there's too many people dying. Like, who am I? I mean, really, who am I? I'm just one person, and the decisions I've made or whatever it is about me that is causing these people to kill other people and go after me and stuff like that, it's not worth it anymore. That's a very common human reaction, like you said, Chris, in many movies, right? We see that across a multitude of storytelling and a multitude of different types of storytelling of people sacrificing themselves for others and or wanting to anyways, right? They don't always, but wanting to at least. So I feel the same way. I think if I was in Jack's shoes, I'd probably want to do the same thing, to be honest with you. I mean, he doesn't have a family, doesn't have kids.
Yeah.
Riker was the prime example of someone he brought up who has a family, and he doesn't think it's fair that Riker's family suffer and pay for, him in a sense. So I did find it interesting here that Picard basically tries to assure him that no, you're worth it. This whole thing's worth it. And of course, Picard's kind of seeing the bigger picture, right? And he's an admiral. He was a captain of the flagship of the Federation, so he sees everything at like a strategic level. This big picture, strategic, like, no, it's about you, but it's not about you, if that makes sense, right? Like, you are important because, well, in this case, he's his son, right? But you're important, but that what we're trying to do here and stop is equally, if not more important. And so because of that, Picard's had a lot of experience getting out of tricky situations. We all know that, right? From his from TNG in the movies, he's found ways to get out of things. And so Picard there at the very end of that little scene there thinks and tells Jack, hey, I think we actually have the upper hand here. I think we could set some sort of a trap, in so many words, for Vadic. And so we then pivot back to the Shrike and Vadic and her crew, which, by the way, Chris, when you mentioned this, I don't know if it was the last episode or 2 episodes ago, where you mentioned that, well, maybe those things that are with her are actually other changelings into that suit. I was like, I don't know. I think this episode kind of confirmed that there are other changelings.
Yeah.
So, I'll give you a little virtual clap here for I mean, seriously, for thinking that idea and that being the case, because they didn't play it off as though they were changelings. They played it off as they were some alien species that was working with them. But I don't think they I don't know if they directly said it, but it certainly had scenes where it's like, yeah, these things have to be other changelings.
Towards the end of the episode, one of them calls Jack solid.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
yep, that's true.
And that was
But
like,
there's nowhere in the episode where they actually say something that makes them say, "Oh yeah, I'm a changeling." But there's enough in it, like you said, Jenny, that says, "Okay, they have to be changelings. What else would they be?" So
Can I ask? I want to
you
ask.
called that. So you called that, Chris. Good on you on that one.
I want to ask a question for both of you. The the masks that they are wearing, like in the suits. So each kind of individual's they've got a different mask, right? And I don't know if I was seeing it right, but it looked like this was my first thought when I saw it. I want to see what you guys think. I thought, okay, these kind of look like the masks from Europe during maybe either like similar to Venetian masks or during the plague, when they would wear like different masks when they were treating people that had the plague or something like that. But I want to see what you guys thought about those.
I think I've been thinking so much about like what are they
Yeah.
that I haven't been paying enough attention to just looking at them. You know, I've been sort of just like because I actually hadn't noticed that the masks were different.
Yeah, they're different on each one. Each one has a different kind of mask. Just neat. It's just neat. Like
it is.
Like the design is kind of neat.
And why? Why are they wearing masks?
Yeah. If
Like,
they're changelings, they don't need masks. They can just look however they want.
One
basically.
would think.
Right? Yeah. Unless there's got to be some there's got to be a specific reason. They haven't revealed it yet, but there's got to be a reason why they're wearing those masks. Of course, I hear the word masks and I'm like, oh, it's a terrible TNG season 7 episode with Data. That's like one of the worst episodes of Star Trek.
It's something.
It's
An episode.
It's something, all right. It's something. Well, Jenny, if it's something, please explain to us what that something might be. We'll say that for another episode. But yeah, so we're back on the Shrike, and it's very evident that these changelings do not care about harming other changelings because she has no problem shooting and vaporizing each other. So it's very like, okay, this is interesting. But we'll learn, I think, maybe kind of one of the reasons why that's the case, and more about Vadic here in just a bit. But the changelings recover some kind of a recording that shows that the Titan is dead in the water after another scuffle with, it looks like, was in the debris field. Was that a Vulcan ship that was floating up there? I think so. Yeah. So
yeah.
Do they I guess they thought that, oh, they got into a skirmish with a Vulcan ship. I mean, why would the Vulcan ship and a Federation ship, I mean, they're part of the Federation, why would they scuffle?
It sounded Starfleet. I almost was thinking that they had faked that the Titan had actually faked that broadcast to sort of make it sound like there had been another ship, but they'd had to bugger off.
Yeah.
Just as a lure.
Yeah, that's how yeah, me too.
Because I think the Vulcan ship is older. Because was it in the last episode? Somebody said something about the rate. They couldn't get readings from the Titan on the Shrike because of the radiation coming off of the Vulcan ship. Like, I think it had been sitting there for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting. Aboard the Titan, things seem okay, but once the changelings get on board, of course they run right into Jack. He taunts them, gets them deeper into the ship, and the trap that they've laid out, right? This trap that Picard was kind of talking about capturing Vadic and these changelings is really using force fields, right? To me, that was a little bit, it was kind of a little lazy in my opinion. It wasn't very creative. I didn't think, because I mean, come on. It's not like they've never done that before in Star Trek. Oh, we're going to create a trap. Okay, throw up force fields and trap them in one spot. There was several TNG episodes where they use that as part of a security protocol, security measures, where they'll throw up force fields. Data used them when he kind of went a little nutso and just had these random force fields be thrown up in the hallways to keep security off of him. I kind of felt it was a little bit lazy in the writing. I kind of feel like they could have done something a little more creative. Like, come on, like, where's Macaulay Culkin at? Throw some freaking micro machines on the floor and trip them or something.
But these are changelings, right?
Yeah, but
they know that how do you contain a changeling?
Well,
keep
you
it
have to have a
from-
biofield. You can't just have a normal force field. You have to have something in addition to that. But still, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I was kind of hoping for more than just throw up some bio force field stuff and then we'll trap them. Yeah. Anyways, I wasn't super excited about that.
That's fair.
But they're able, Jack and Sydney are able to trap these other changelings in a couple spots in this hallway, right? And then Picard and Beverly are able to trap Vatic, mostly Beverly is able to trap Vatic inside these force fields, inside, I believe it was sick bay.
Yeah.
But this little game kind of takes a turn when Sydney and Jack are themselves trapped, right, in these force fields. And Geordi is trying to be the dad to the rescue here and beam him out, but Lore, unfortunately, has taken control and is preventing the transporters from being used. And that's no good. That's no bueno, Chris.
That's no bueno.
No bueno, as you like to say. But they're going through all of that. They're dealing with all of that. And we also have Vatic in custody. Now, this scene with Vatic in custody and Beverly and then Picard who comes in, this is a bit of a whopper. To me, this is the best scene of the episode. I'll get into we'll get into all of our total thoughts for the episode at the end here. But to me, this was the best part of the whole episode, was discovering this backstory, right? Figuring out why Vatic is the way she is, figuring out maybe why she has a scars, figuring out why these changelings are doing what they're doing. I think, I'll be honest with you, I don't feel like, to me personally, that the reason why they're doing it is super shocking, but we at least get to learn why that is. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. Let's start with you this time, Chris. So this whole scene's unfolding, right? You've got Vatic in this bio field to keep her from getting out, and liquid, gooing on the floor and then running, fleeting away. And you've got Beverly confronting her with a phaser. Picard comes in with a phaser. What are you thinking through this scene? What did this scene, do for you personally?
I thought it was an excellent scene. I thought seeing the backstory of Vatic was terrific and good. So it certainly gave us a lot more sympathy for Vatic, I think. So like prior to her going onto the Titan, she has that really, really hard exchange with whatever creature that is kind of in charge and telling her, go find Jack, right? And she, she's conflicted and she's trying. But this backstory of her sharing with Beverly and Picard that, hey, you guys don't really know the whole story of the Dominion War, do you? This is what happened. And I was a prisoner of war of the Federation. And I was on Daystrom, the Daystrom station, and they experimented on me and my other people. And they tortured us. And
doesn't she say like they experiment on her and her brothers and sisters or something like that to
Yeah,
make it
yeah,
real,
maybe
to make
they're-
it real personal?
There were
Yeah.
10
Yeah.
of them, yeah.
10 of
Yeah.
them? Yeah. And they tortured us all so that we could become your weapon. And I like that a lot, because she is a creation, and her being an antagonist and her being the villain is a creation of the Federation. She's she's a creation that like we created, right? So we I'm saying like as if we were the Federation, but I'm saying right.
Oh,
So
we are.
we are. So
are.
we being our greatest enemy. We made this creation that is now against us and after us because we didn't behave according to our highest ideals. So you have, so that's that with Vatic, which I think gives her like a great backstory as a villain, because she has this very, very legitimate and personal reason to hate the Federation, absolutely, because she's calling the Federation out for being duplicitous, and but then you also have this great scene, I think a great scene between Beverly and Picard, where after they've learned of Vadic's backstory and they've invited her on the ship, and they just kind of know, like, well, we've said something like brilliant, like, we've invited death on this ship, and Beverly is struggling, right? Picard is struggling because they want to capture Jack, their son, and I love a few things that they say, where Picard says, "Have we?" Because they're about. I got the feeling that they were about ready to execute Vadic,
Yeah.
and Picard says something. Have we come this far that we're throwing out everything that we believe in as people? And Beverly says something like, "My moral compass is gone. I don't know where I am." And I love that that's there. I love that that situation is there because like I was talking about borders and line and dualities, that's all there. And your duality is about like organizations and organizations that may have high ideals, but they have this other kind of part of them, that's in the shadow, where the intent was good, but the methods were like awful. So I like that. I love that that's there. I like as a theme, and set up, and that was kind of like Zach. It was like my favorite part of it too, and I think it sets up like a great third act of the episode. So yeah, it was great. That's what I got out of it when I saw it. It was like, and I thought they were the perfect people to play that scene out.
Yeah. What about you, Jenny?
Yeah, I felt like watching the three of them was like a master class. Like the acting chops in that room, in that scene, like, just, because you get it, you understand where each one of them is coming from. You understand Vadic's whole, she's with the changelings, but there is this level of it that she's explaining that is that extra personal level for her, and that also, looking at Picard and Beverly, it's the same. They also have, overall they're trying to, help the Federation, but they also have this personal investment. So again, that sort of duality, that there's the sort of the kind of mirror, and it's, Vadic said some stuff. Like,
did she ever?
Man, she's like,
it was heavy, like your shirt.
Yeah.
For those of you who are listening to this, she's wearing a flux capacitor shirt.
That's
and don't
right.
worry, her flux shirt is fluxing right now. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail. I'm not trying to
Not
derail.
at all.
Continue.
Not at all. Yeah, like that. That. What is she? Yeah, oh, and actually, Chris, like you were saying, she's bringing up the winners write the history. That that there is this sort of shining beacon of the Federation and how they present themselves, or what the story that they tell, but it's not the whole story, and it never is, like, if just humans in general, there's a lot to us, and yes, obviously, this goes into like Star Trek in general, that overall it's this aspirational idea of what humans are capable of, but we also can't forget that we're also capable of bad stuff too, and we can't. Oh, I can really get on with this, but
no, this is great.
But that. All right, so this is a little side thing, but like, people often talk about, Roddenberry's vision and the utopia of Star Trek, and I don't believe that utopias are possible, and I don't think that was the intention. Well, it might have been Gene Roddenberry's intention, but I think Star Trek in general has sort of surpassed that. That there's an aspiration towards a perfect world, but it has to include all aspects of us, and we as humans aren't perfect. So to create this world where we're all actually taking care of each other and, you know, no one's left behind, we also have to keep working at it. We can't become complacent about the negative parts of ourselves. And that's sort of when people talk about Star Trek, you know, some of the newer Trek being a little bit on the dark side, or that it's not positive. I never agree with that, because I feel like the darkness in Picard in particular is a reminder that we have to be vigilant and we have to work at being the best of ourselves. Unseen. Sorry.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm
Excellent.
No, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I think you made a good point there. Okay. So the original series and the first couple seasons of TNG, at least the first 3-ish seasons of TNG, while Gene Roddenberry was alive, was a utopian view. He believed that in the future we would figure all this out. Or that there's hopes that we'd figure it all out. We'd overcome all of our differences and everything would be great and everything would be grand, you know, at least from the perspective of, you know, humankind, right? Obviously in TNG and TOS, they encounter other species and things like that that don't quite have it all together. But he believed that, you know, humanity would eventually one day overcome a lot of those things. And I think some things we have, and there's still a lot more stuff we haven't. I've said it before, Chris, and you'll know this, that Deep Space Nine never would have been made if Gene Roddenberry was still alive. It went against the view that he had of the future, or the future he was hoping to create through this series, right? And this positive view of things. Picard, especially this season, is playing very heavily off of that idea that, yeah, things in the future we hope will be better, but it's not all going to be figured out. Gene Roddenberry himself, and this is not me, you know, bashing on the man, he was an imperfect person. If you go read stuff about him, he was not a perfect person either. You know, none of us, there's no such thing as a perfect person.
Exactly.
You know, and so we all have a lot of things to work on. And I think Picard, and I think you both said it perfectly. Picard is a great reminder that there's still a lot of evil and we got to overcome that. And Picard season 3 is kind of showing that. You mentioned Jenny. In Picard season 3, we are seeing this idea that Starfleet, and well, we kind of already knew this from DS9, right? And actually in some instances TNG, but DS9 really, it was I think the first show to bring this about. Starfleet presents this beautiful image of like, hey, we're here to help. We're all about science and exploration, and we're here to do good. But there's some shady backwater stuff going on with Section 31, and we are seeing the fallout of the Dominion War in Picard season 3. We are seeing just how far the Federation, some members of the Federation were willing to go. Starfleet in particular, obviously, were willing to go to win the war. Right? In the Dominion War, Starfleet got into war mode. It was just, we're doing whatever we can to win. Look at Cisco. Cisco is a perfect example of someone who did everything in his power to win. He lied, he cheated, all, you know, his famous quote from In the Pale Moonlight, which is one of the greatest episodes I think there is. And this reveal by Vadic, well, personally, I don't think it was unexpected. I felt like, okay, if she's a changeling, something's happened. Like, what happened to her and her brothers and sisters or whatever is similar, not exactly the same, but similar to what happened to Odo. Right? With Odo, the Bajoran, I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head. The Bajoran found him, the doctor, who he kind of loathed, did all sorts of stuff to try to figure out who he was and what he could do and everything else. It wasn't to the same extreme that what Vadic and her 9 other folks went through, but some similarities there. This scene to me was really powerful because it shows that Starfleet and the Federation in general are not who they appear to be. It's kind of a realization. It's kind of a slap to the face a little bit for some Star Trek fans. Like, hey, it ain't all great. You know, this was a powerful scene. That scene where, in this scene where the flashbacks, right? And she's talking about how this doctor would intentionally do things to hurt them. And Chris, you mentioned about how like she says something to the effect of what was it that you were creating us as your weapons or something like that.
Yeah.
That was powerful. My goodness. To me, this is the best scene in the whole episode to me. The experiments that they performed were meant to turn them into some sort of undetectable spies. And instead they became monsters. And that's a fairly, common storytelling theme that we've seen throughout literature and human history of stuff like that. Okay, so as the story's closing from Vadic, she turns it to now Jack, and she starts kind of taunting Beverly a little bit. Interesting, the line she says, and I want to get your guys' take on this, where she points out that Jack isn't for her in the same way he really wasn't for you either. That was like, oh, yep, Beverly knows something. Beverly knows more than she's leading on. And I find it interesting too that she's like, hey, you're going to lose another son. So now she's referencing Wesley. Well, sure, he lost Wesley because he became one of those travelers, right? But Wesley's not dead. But that you're going to lose another son. And she's making it personal to Beverly, like getting into the whole family thing, bringing up her other son. Woo! What do you guys think about that?
Go ahead, Jenny.
Jenny, you go first this time. Yeah, go ahead, Jenny. You go first.
So, and again, I am trying not to go, but yeah. Because she also said to Jack, like, I want to take you to a better place.
Yeah.
And because the face wants him, right? Vadic thinks it's great because she can, like, get a little extra, pain to these people, basically.
Yeah, a little payback.
Yeah. But like she said, he's not for me. This is I'm just doing my job here. So, which again brings us back to who is the face? Who is the face?
Yeah.
And I'm saying he in a general sense, but the face said to her, number one, he was manipulating her goo.
Yeah.
In a weird way. In that he seems to have some control over her physically, even that he's not there. But also referred to her as you and your kind. So, is he a changeling? Is he something else? Or someone else?
Not a changeling. I hope he's not a changeling.
I think he's not.
I think he's something else. I think he's something else. Yeah. Yep.
That and the fact that she's sort of, suggesting that the plan for Jack isn't necessarily, I don't know. Oh, I don't know. I'm so excited to know.
Yes. I'm a little nervous. I'm starting to get nervous. This is just me. We only have 3 episodes left. I'm getting nervous because I have full confidence and trust in Terry and what they're doing with this season of Picard. But there's a part of me that's worried, like, what if what becomes of all this is not what I wanted or hoped for? I know that sounds selfish and it's not meant to be, but you know what I mean? Like, what if it's not I don't know. I'm trying not to think this way. Chris, before I go down a road I shouldn't, what are your thoughts from this scene? As this kind of flashback from Vadic is wrapping up. What are your thoughts about how she turns this on Beverly and makes this super personal for her family?
Yeah. Was this the same scene that I think this just flashed in my mind? Did Vadic say something about Beverly keeping the knowledge of Picard's son from Picard?
Yes,
Right?
Yes.
that humans are so that humans are so good at ignoring this suffering of others that they're
Yes.
very good at sort of.
I
And
thought that was incredible.
Would you have kept him from Picard if you'd been able to feel his suffering, or been able to feel what it would do to him?
Yeah. Oh, that was beautiful.
It was.
Yeah, that was incredible. That was incredible.
Yeah.
I got the sense that when Vadic said, so Vadic said a couple things to Jack, right? She said, I think when she first sees him, she says something like, "Oh, my darling boy." You know, she uses that phrase. So Jack is of great value to them somehow. I don't think they want to hurt him at all. And she wants to take him to a better place. And I got the sense that there's some, of course, there's some connection that Vadic and has with Jack, or Jack has with the changelings that we just don't know about. Maybe we'll learn about more, but you do get the sense that there's great value. Jack is of great value to them. And that made me feel that, okay, maybe it's something, Jack has more meaning other than him just providing the DNA for Picard's body, you know, just to make a duplicate of Picard. So when Vadic says to Beverly in that scene that he's not for you either, he's not for me, he's not for you either, I got the sense that that surprised Beverly. That was like, okay, I don't know what you're talking. Yeah. I'm like, I felt that Beverly thought, I'm not sure what she's talking about. Like, I mean, Beverly knows that there's something wrong for sure, but she's like, I don't know what's going on either. So I'm thinking Beverly doesn't know. I'm thinking the captain, or Admiral Picard doesn't know. And of course Vadic probably knows, but she's not sharing. But I thought, yeah, that was a great scene. And we'll find out what Jack is supposed to be for. The mystery deepens after that one.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a changeling.
I hope not. Oh, I hope not.
I did appreciate when she was saying, I just want to take you to a better place. She didn't say, I want to take you home.
Yeah.
I was almost afraid as she started saying that. I thought she was going to say, I want to take you home. And I would have been like, ah.
No. Yeah, because then you're thinking the Great Link.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the fact that, a better place, whatever that is. Anyway.
Yeah. I found that interesting in this scene. I think Picard said something to the effect of Beverly where he asks her, like, are we so fundamentally changed that we're both willing to compromise our moral compass? Something along those lines, right? And then Beverly's kind of like, yeah, I would. You know, her son's involved. Yeah.
Like right now, yeah.
They make the decision that they're going to kill Vadic. Unfortunately, then here comes Lore. Right, he drops the force field and she slithers away right up some vent or something like that in the ship, and she's gone. Who knows where she went in the ship? And so now we flash over to Sydney and Jack, not Zach.
Yeah.
And so this scene I found very interesting because now we've seen not only Jack get super nervous that something's going to happen to Sydney. So he's obviously he's got feelings for her, right? You know, he's like, hey, you know, my finger just touched your hand. We've got a connection. I must save you. You must survive. I must ask you to the prom. You know, he's got that love for her going on right now. So they're fighting, you know, they start fighting these other changelings, right? And Jack's pretty much able to handle himself in this situation. Sydney, not so much. The other changeling significantly bigger than she is. And then we learned that apparently Jack can all of a sudden like control somebody else's body and like throw his flashy eyes to the other body, and then she starts moving, and then he beats the crap out of the other changeling using her. It's like, what the heck was that? I mean, it's almost like Jack went to Professor X's school for
I was just thinking
the
that.
gifted. Yeah.
Oh, that was good.
Did
Yeah.
he get some training under Professor X? I mean,
Yeah.
it's the same dude, right? So
Mhm.
I don't know. What did you guys
It's
think
the
about
same
that?
dude.
Is that the same?
Patrick
Wait, I'm-
Stewart.
Oh,
Yeah, he's
yeah.
Professor X and
Yeah.
X-Men, man.
Oh
Come
my
on.
goodness.
That's hilarious.
Come on, Chris.
It just-
Don't make me pull your nerd card, man.
Oh yeah. Now it's
Mhm.
It was
crossover
it
event.
was an attempt at a crossover joke that didn't maybe not go as well as I was hoping it would. But anyways,
That was a
Yeah.
good one. It was so
Was it?
good that
Okay.
yeah.
so good, so good. You're like, wait a second, what? Yeah. So that's what I'm here for. I'm here for really bad
Mm.
jokes. But anyways, this was a very interesting scene. This whole idea that Jack is able to somehow possess somebody else, take control of their body, like fight with her, like what Worf did for Quark, you know, when he was defending Grilka. I'm like, okay, so this is some minus the technological pieces.
Yeah.
Let's start with you on this one, Chris. What did you think when you saw all of a sudden that Jack can like throw his and possess other bodies?
Yeah, I thought it was a neat action like set piece. So there's some desperation there.
Mhm.
And then it seemed like he was tapping into some abilities that he didn't know that he had, right? So I thought that was neat. And okay, since you said Professor X and then you brought in the X. Well, no, this
I'm
was great
sorry,
that
I
you,
didn't mean to derail it.
no, you didn't derail it because I didn't even have this thought before.
Mhm.
But I thought it was great since you brought that in. And I mean, this mystery is so deep we don't know, but we had talking about, we had been talking about the idea of like evolution before, evolution in all its different kind of forms. But what if he's like tapping into this evolved capability of humanity that's there now, right? And
Mhm.
then he's the representative of it. So Beverly said, his mind's always been on overdrive since he was growing up, and we'll see. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, but don't know if that'll go the way that go. But that, since you guys brought in Professor X, I was thinking, oh, okay, maybe it's some evolution of
That's
a person.
that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Because I think one thing that we haven't really entertained is the idea that there hasn't necessarily been some kind of manipulation here. Like maybe that this is just a weird jump forward and the changelings are trying to exploit it as opposed to having caused it in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And Jack's still hearing those voices, I think, as far as
Yeah.
we know, right? Yeah. So we'll see
Yeah.
Yeah.
what that all means.
Hmm.
I'm gonna change my Zoom name on here to train conductor because I keep derailing the conversation. So
No, it's
I think
good.
it's great. It really is.
yeah. So it's very interesting. I found that this episode started to reveal a lot more about Jack, right? And
Mhm.
some of the additional things, powers, whatever you want to call them, that he has, we didn't know about. We knew about the red flashy eyes. We knew about the seeing things and the hearing things. Now we know he can read minds. He can possess other people. Kind of creepy. But he helps her out. He
Mhm.
fights off the changeling. I'm thinking to myself, man, like, they're not going to kill off one of LaForge's daughters, are they? Like, that was running through
Mm.
my mind in
Mhm.
this. Like,
This
oh,
was
are
intense.
it
this
was so
episode.
especially from Geordi's perspective, right? We'll
Mhm.
get into that intense scene here in a minute. But it was intense, like watching Geordi beg Lore to release the force fields
Mhm.
because he didn't want Sydney to die. Like he got super emotional, started bawling. I'm thinking to myself, oh Lord, what if that was my daughter? Like I would be the same way. I'd be freaking out. I'd be like punching the glass. I'd be doing something to be like release,
Mhm.
I don't know. Maybe I would even, I don't try to run to save her, but then would Laura just stop you at the force field, I guess. But
Mhm.
like, yeah, it was just, man, that it was tough. And thankfully, though, she doesn't die. I don't think they would have done that. That I think fans would have rioted if they would have killed off one of LaForge's daughters, who happened to be his real daughter in real life. That'd have been terrible. But yeah, he's we're flashing back and forth between that scene there, Geordi, you know, trying to haggle with Laura, trying to barter with him to get him to stop, and he's begging. He is begging Data
Mhm.
to take control. He's begging Data to fight, and that was, woo, that was an emotional scene. That was really emotional. Let's start with you on that one, Jenny. What were your thoughts on this when you're watching Geordi get super emotional, seeing his daughter getting the snot beat out of her, and then trying to,
Mhm.
yell at Data to fight to overcome Lore?
I mean, it was just so. I'm just LeVar Burton, like that was unbelievable.
He crushed that scene.
Yeah, and considering that the way that Nemesis worked, that we barely even got a glimpse of Geordi just kind of being a little bit sad after Data died. Like we needed to see that, because that relationship is so vital to that crew and that it was like, man, it was a lot. Like, Chris, no, I'm like, I'm
No,
trying
you
to
were
keep saying
yourself,
like,
yeah.
yeah,
like.
no. Oh no, what you said
Mhm.
was beautiful. And this is absolutely a beautiful scene, one of my most favorite
Mhm.
of the episode, maybe one of my most favorite of the season so far. What I like about this scene, Jenny, you're completely right. Like after in Star Trek Nemesis, right? You did not have Geordi have a chance. There wasn't. I mean, of course, there's not time in that movie, but you did not get to see Geordi exercise that kind of release of his emotions or express it or have that catharsis there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But here, um, we do see that, and I think you're absolutely right. It was really, really, really needed. And he says to Data, like, when you died, I broke, right? But he also appeals to Data that Data, and while Data is lore. So this is while Data is lore, and that representation of Data lore is the direct cause of his daughter's imminent danger right there, right? And so he's appealing to Data, saying, "Hey, you made me a better man. You made me a better father." And what I love about this scene as well is they are physically separated by a barrier, a door. So is Jack and Sydney, physically
Yeah.
separated by the force fields. And you're going back and forth between those two scenes. And what I love about this is that not only does we get to see him acknowledge in that moment how that death affected him, and we see him run through those range of his emotions and catharsis. Um, but he is expressing he's expressing his most intimate things that he can express to his best friend, who's not really his best friend at the moment, right? It's Lore, and it's separated by a physical barrier. And so much of the time that we as like people would like to express what we would like someone else to know, even when we are not, because when we're in the same physical space, we're not separated by a barrier. When we're in the same physical space, we rarely do that. But
Mhm.
here I love that. Hey, they're physically separated. He's appealing to Data, his best friend who he lost, and he gets to kind of express that. And I love LeVar Burton's like acting at that moment. I thought it was just beautiful, his expression, his eyes, and I thought, it didn't feel to me like acting. It felt like
Mm.
it was so genuine, right? And I
Mhm.
thought, oh, the purity of that moment was like great, and how they set it up, and his daughter's in danger, and he's appealing to his best friend was wonderful.
Mhm.
And
I would.
yeah. Oh,
No, go
sorry.
ahead, Chris. No, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I want to also acknowledge like this third act of the episode, the music. I loved the music.
I've been.
Yeah. So there. Yeah.
They brought in a violin, and I mean, like it's in there. I mean, it's that on its own. I thought was really because there is that connection with Data.
Hmm.
That I thought was just beautiful, but it also just the way that it like because everyone was sort of oddly like isolated, and it wasn't this big crescendo of music. It was this very sort of like solitary instruments around climbing. Oh gosh, I'm gonna have to let him out. But yeah, like
Yeah, it was.
For 1 second, I gotta run again.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it was really powerful. I would love to ask LeVar Burton on this, Chris, if it was easier for him to get as emotional as he did because of the fact it was his real daughter, and him, and maybe in that particular moment, him using that and imagining him pleading with some bad guy to let his daughter go in real life or something. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like if I was in that scene, maybe it would be a little bit easier. I'm not saying it's an easy thing for him to get as emotional as he did, but maybe that it would be easier because it was his real daughter. I'd love to ask him that question.
Well, I think Sydney's actually not his. I think Sydney is not his real daughter. I think Alondra is his real daughter, but they're best. But Sydney, I'm sorry, I don't remember their actual names. But Sydney and Alondra
Ashley
are like
Sharp Chestnut and Mika.
Yeah.
Or
yeah. Now they're really
I thought
really
both
close.
of those girls were his daughters, weren't they?
No.
Oh, they're
no.
not? Oh,
No.
oh,
only,
okay. Well,
only
all right.
Alondra is his daughter.
Oh, I thought both of the girls were. All right. Well, the girl who plays Sydney, I think looks just like LeVar. Like they did a great job of casting her, right? Because they did a good job of finding, okay, you know, does her likeness look like LeVar? It does.
Yeah.
I buy her as his daughter in a heartbeat.
Yeah. And the Burtons have basically adopted her. Like they're like, you're part of our family now. And
why not? You're part of the Star Trek family. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, they did a great job. I mean, obviously it was easier with the other daughter being his real daughter. I legitimately thought both of those girls were his daughter.
Yeah.
That's the chemistry they have. You would think they were, but they weren't. All right.
Yeah.
Well, correction to that, folks. Correction to that. I guess only one of them is his daughter. Yeah, I would love to ask LeVar though, if it was easier for him to get that emotional knowing that his real daughter was in the show. I guess I'll rephrase that now since I did the breaking news here that I was not aware of.
From what I read, because he actually did pop up in a Twitter conversation about it today. Number one, that they actually did film more for Geordi and Nemesis that didn't get used. Directly relating to Data's death, and he hated the fact that didn't happen. So so in addition to this being like, obviously there's feelings about like, you know, having children and being in this situation, he had genuine feelings about the Geordi and Data relationship, and that he's been carrying with him, that kind of all came out too.
Yeah.
I guess the set, like everybody was just done. Like,
yeah,
like the camera guy was crying. Like it was, yeah, he nailed it.
It was an amazing scene. I think and we've had a lot of emotional scenes in this season, right? We can probably all agree on that. This to me was one of the most emotional. This might be the most emotional scene thus far. With Geordi pleading with Lore and begging for Data to, you know, take control. Thankfully Data does manage to break through, but it's just a little bit too late, unfortunately. So then we flash to the last part of this episode where we get Vadic and her other changeling thugs show up on the bridge, and Yeah, they are. Those are
I wrote
they're
that
like.
down too.
Oh, did you write that down
Her-
too?
Yeah, who are
Some
her
thugs?
thugs? What's up
Yeah.
with them? Yeah,
Yeah, like her posse, right? Like
Yeah.
this other group of changelings are following her around like she's,
Yeah.
celebrity or something like that. They bust onto the bridge, right? And they hold Seven at I don't blaster point, gun point, whatever you want to
Mhm.
call it, phaser point. Yeah, we see a little bit of a beat up Captain Shaw there, a little bloodied up on the bridge and jacked up. Vatic, interestingly, heads to the captain's chair. Very excited about it for some reason.
Mhm.
And makes an announcement ship wide, even though there's not much crew left on board, right? But ship wide announcement that she is the new captain of the USS Titan. And interestingly, she says, "Yeah, Jack, time for you to learn who you really are." Dun dun dun. And the episode closes out. So, ooh, interesting. Okay. So we went through that as we normally do. We did our on our reviews and recaps. Lot of stuff to break down here in this episode. Lot of interpersonal things. Some very I think you kind of mentioned it perfectly, Jenny. This built up emotion, right? All these years of Geordi not getting his proper emotional scene from Data's death, his first death. I'm curious. We'll start with you, Jenny. Give us your overall thoughts for those of you watching on YouTube or listening, or those of you who might be in the live chat or comments below. We'll be curious to hear your thoughts as well. But Jenny, what were your overall thoughts and reactions to this episode?
This was the first episode that didn't sort of give us a full arc. And I say that meaning that there is a part 2 to this episode. Whereas the other episodes, I mean, there's an overall story, but this one was over before I was ready for it to be over, basically. Like, because we didn't get a conclusion, it was this intense, right from the beginning, it brings us in, they're already exhausted, they're already desperate, they're clearly running out of options. So we come in and the stakes are here, and they just keep going up as the episode goes on. And I was like, literally, I was, sitting on the edge of the couch, like, it was just so intense. I just keep coming back to that word. It was just so intense, which was great, which was fantastic. So I'm while I've definitely, I'm always very excited to see what's next. Like, now what's next,
Yeah.
And I wanted to throw out a Captain Shaw shout out here. Number 1, because have we talked about his posture in the captain's chair? Because
No, I don't think we've talked about it here.
No.
he sits in the captain's chair, leaned forward, like with his elbows on his knees, like, and it's such a character thing, and I just love it because he isn't in the captain's chair often because he keeps getting, but when he is, he's like there, and he's so engaged, pardon the pun. And the other thing in this episode, because it happened so fast, but when I rewatched it today, because he goes down to try to stop them from getting to the bridge, right? So it's him and a couple other, and then he's shooting that last changeling, and he's following Vatic to the turbo lift, and then the changeling comes up behind him, and then they throw him into the turbo lift, and it happens so fast you barely hear it, but he's on the intercom and he says, "Blow the lift."
Yeah.
Like, blow the turbo lift, like, kill us, don't let them up to the bridge. Which just, so when he gets thrown out, he's on the ground, he's beat to crap, and he's got tears coming out of his eyes because he's like he was literally trying to get them to kill him to save everyone else.
Yeah.
So shout out to Captain Liam Shaw, who is not such a
Nice.
big jerk after all.
No, well, I wonder if that the way he's just in the bridge chair is because, or the captain's chair, bridge chair. Good lord, the captain's chair
I'm with you.
is because he's a grease monkey, right?
Yeah.
That's how he was. He was engaged, right? He was a hands-on guy. He's fixing things and doing things, and that's just kind of probably. So I think that's great that the way that they worked that in, and that would be my explanation as to why he sat the way he did. But
yeah, no, that makes total sense. Absolutely.
yeah. So
You know,
all
he's
right.
not like sitting there like
Yeah.
Sulu drinking tea. You know,
You're not sitting there going engage.
yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Captain Sulu's got his own little tea table.
So much.
Does.
Bit weird. Okay, Chris, what are your give us your thoughts and reactions here overall to this episode?
Yeah, I did. I really I did really like this episode. I think more than you may have liked it, Zach, but I'll go into it a little more. I really liked that opening scene with Tuvok and Seven. Oh, I thought that was a great kind of, it went the way I didn't anticipate that it was going to go that way, and I thought it was great. So we talked about Janeway a little bit. I think we'll maybe see some Janeway in this. I think that was some good foreshadowing. I'd be really happy to see her. I think that'd be awesome. That'd be super.
They've dropped her name a number of times.
Yeah.
Like,
And Picard has talked to her before. He talked to her in Nemesis, right? Yeah. So wonder maybe we'll get her.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. That'd be awesome if we did. I think that'd be great.
Oh, it'd be super. It'd be super. I felt similarly to you, Jenny, where at the end I thought, oh, okay, I do want this to go on like more.
looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed with how the writers and the creators have been able to get all of these things into a particular episode, get all of these ideas, make it really not only extremely entertaining to watch, but they kind of pack in these very personal characteristics of all of the characters and kind of what they're thinking and the decisions that they have to make. So I really like that. And the idea of the scrapyard and the shipyards and kind of the visual effects in this again, I thought were great, and all of the production design was great and wonderful there too. And I did like for me when I watched this episode, I did like the idea of duality, and I thought that theme of duality was within Starfleet. Then it was in Beverly and Picard, kind of making the different kind of choices that they had to make. So I thought it showed up as individuals and in Starfleet as an organization, and I thought that was important. And in Data too, I thought it was for me a very clear, like, hey, there's this duality within this new birth of Data, and then we're afraid to integrate it, otherwise it's gonna like turn into all these bad things and it's gonna explode or whatever. But for me, I think the beautiful solution, or the beautiful thing that would happen, is you have to integrate kind of both those sides into something that would be more, like you said, Jenny, more, right? So that'd be great. I really love the idea that Geordi had this beautiful moment with Data and how they set it up there. And again, I talked about this the third act of the episode, and the music and the action and kind of the peril that people were in were great. So all of that was good. I've got something else in my mind that is slipping that's slipping from my mind at the moment, and I don't have Irrimatic syndrome, but it's this was okay. This was it. So I don't know if I was reading into it much, but where the scene with Jack and Picard says, maybe there's some way for us to gain an advantage. And then the scene ended. Like, he didn't explain what that advantage was, right?
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, well, it ended. And then you go into the whole sequence of where, they're the force fields, and they're trying to trap Vadic. But I'm thinking, what if there's more to that? What if Picard actually had more more sense of a trap on where they wanted to go with that, right? So Vadic now has control of the ship. They've got
There
to,
has to be, right?
yeah,
It
yeah,
doesn't
'cause-
make sense if there isn't.
yeah, because they've got to figure out
Right.
what the plan is. That's what they need to know. Like, what is the plan? Who's in on the conspiracy and what are they trying to do? So that's where my mind went. Was like, well, maybe they're not done with this trap. Maybe they need to make Vadic think that she's won, because they can understand, like, you know, what the entire plan is going to be. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
Interesting.
really like the episode. Zach.
What do you
did it-
think, Zach?
Yeah. Did we make you like? Did I make you like it more? Did we make you like it more?
All right, let me
Yeah.
share. I'll share my thoughts briefly here. I think you guys both made really good points. I thought the scene between Vadic and Picard and Beverly, I thought was might actually be the best played out scene so far in this season. I thought kind of what you mentioned, Jenny, this kind of like, it was almost like watching a waltz, right? Like it's in a different sense of the term, this idea of like this dance that they played through the dialogue, right? Of this, this weaving back and forth kind of thing. I thought that scene was really fantastic. It was powerful because you're starting to see why Vadic and these other changelings are the way they are. The scene with that scene with Geordi, how emotional he got, pleading for Data to help him, and how emotional he got over the idea of his not real daughter apparently, but his daughter in the show, potentially dying. That scene freaking tore me up. It tore me up. I was like, yeah, it was rough. That was a super emotional scene. Overall, though, this was my least favorite episode of the season. And it's not because there weren't great moments. It's not because the acting was bad. I felt to an extent that the episode was fairly predictable. At least from like, okay, they're going to come on the ship and they're going to try to trap them in some way. And, oh, we're using force fields again to do it, or biofields, whatever. Yep, they're going to trap Vadic. They're going to have this conversation. Like, to me personally, and other people may feel differently. If you're watching the premiere of this and you're live chatting, it's okay. You can tear me up. That's fine. So it's all good. Opinions are like belly buttons. Everyone has one. This is mine. And so my thought on it felt predictable in many ways. That, that being said, though, I do think you're right, Jenny. I think that this has to be like a part one of a two-parter, even though the whole season is like one giant episode. But you know what I mean? I think you made a good point there. This definitely, again, it felt predictable. I don't know. I just kind of felt like it missed the mark for me a little bit. I just kind of felt like we've had so much incredible buildup and drama in this. Was just, okay, yep, the ship's floating in the debris field. Okay, the Shrike shows up. Yeah, they board the ship. They go after Jack. They get caught. Oh, she got away. Surprise. We still have 3 episodes left. She has to get away somehow, right? I don't know. It's just my own personal opinion. I love some of the moments in this episode, Chris, were some of the most powerful I felt like of the whole season. And we've had a lot of powerful moments in this season. So I'm not going to discredit that or take that away from the episode. The episode as a whole just was, it was okay. It was okay. Didn't quite hit the mark for me. But we've had so many good episodes. It's like, if out of the 10 episodes we have one that was so, then we're doing pretty good, I think. So, you guys may not agree with that, and that's fine. People watching, listening, chatting, commenting may go, "You're out of your mind. You're an idiot. Like, just get off the podcast. Let Jenny and Chris do it. You leave." Okay, that's fine. That's fair. That's fair. But yeah. So it was okay. maybe Chris, maybe there was buildup in my mind from last week when you're like, yeah, Zach, it's the Dominion, and I got this buildup in my,
We misled him.
I got built up in my mind this great fantastic thing, and then
Where's Wayoon?
well, exactly, where's Wayoon at?
Yeah.
I didn't want to bring that up, Jenny. That was a sore spot.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm really sorry.
I'll try to get over it. But no, I thought there were some amazing moments, but the episode fell flat. So I'll leave it at that. But yeah, we only have 3 episodes left. What are we gonna do when this thing ends? I guess we gotta move on to Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
Season 2.
I
Which will be
wonder
out
how
in June, by the way. June.
Yes. Yeah. There was a bunch of announcements this week. So Strange
Yep.
New Worlds has a release date, and they're gonna start filming season 3.
Yeah. Oh, that was like music to my ears.
Oh yeah. Lower Decks has the new season coming out, but they're also starting. They're renewed for a 4 or 5, whatever.
I think the
whatever
4th
the next
season's
one is,
coming
yeah.
out, so the 5th
Yes. Yeah. And they officially have, or there will officially be a 2nd season of Prodigy, which I am going to catch up on.
Yeah, I've watched almost nothing from Prodigy. So
yeah. The thing that I'm very interested about from a just, I don't know, I'm losing a word, but anyway, all of these announcements came out this week, and First Contact Day is next weekend, or yeah,
First Contact Day is in 3 days.
Oh yeah, right. It's the 5th, right? Yeah, April 5th.
Yeah.
4th, 5th, 4th, 5th.
I think it's the 5th.
Yes, I'm pretty sure it's the 5th.
Sorry, 4 days. Sorry, 4 days. What day is today?
Okay.
Today's April Fool's Day, all right? So we're not fooling you. We're not fooling you.
Yeah. So normally on First Contact Day, they usually save announcements like that for First Contact Day.
Oh, you think something big's coming? Maybe. Could be.
I don't know. I hope so. But now it's like, and then they announced Starfleet Academy yesterday, and I'm like, what are they going to do on First Contact Day?
What if on First Contact Day my dreams come true? What if on First Contact Day they announce a Chief O'Brien standalone series?
Right?
Chris, my dreams would come true. You know it, right? I will have died and gone to heaven if that's the case.
Please make Zach's dreams come true.
Yes, that would be.
We'll start a GoFundMe. Go start a GoFundMe for that Zach.
Yeah,
world.
We're gonna need more than 6 cents to get that off the ground, though, Chris. hate to admit that to you. Yeah, that would be. Yeah, all right. That would be incredible. But yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point, Jenny. What are they going to do on First Contact Day? April 5th, 2063. We're not that much farther. Is it 2063, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Am I way off my rocker on that one?
No, you're exactly right.
We're not that far away.
I know.
We're not. We're getting closer. Yeah, not that much longer to the Vulcans land. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, that is 40 years from. Yeah, that's right, because it's 2023. Boy. I don't even know what year it is. Okay. Anyways. Yeah, I'd be curious to see what happens. What do they announce? Maybe there's something big coming out, like they're going to announce a spin-off series for Captain Shaw, spin-off series for Worf and Raffi, which would be amazing. Who knows? A spin-off series with a Captain 7. Who knows? Anything's possible. Yeah. I'm really excited. I'm really excited about the idea of a I don't know what I was going to say. We'll insert that into the blooper.
It's just excited.
Oh my god. Oh, that's
just
what
excited
it was.
in general.
That's what it was. Okay. A brain fart here. Yeah. No. Strange New World season 2, and the fact we're getting a season 3. See, my brain eventually got there. I just took the long way around. I took the scenic route. So yeah, that to me is exciting. I know I know a couple people who aren't really big into Strange New Worlds, but I know a lot of people who are. It's been really fantastic. That first season was amazing. When I met Rebecca Romaine at the Star Trek convention last year, and she was signing my poster, and she's like, because I had her write a quote on there, and she's like, "Oh, I know why you chose this quote." She's like, "Man, wait till you see season 2. It's gonna blow your mind. You ain't seen, you haven't seen anything yet, and this stuff." I'm like, "Oh man." She's either driving the hype train because she has to, or because she really believes that. I think she believes that. I think we got some great stuff coming. A lot of great content coming for Star Trek down the road. The Starfleet Academy thing we talked about at the beginning of this looks like it has some potential. Hope it'll be good. I hope Terry Matalas is spearheading this thing as the lead, showrunner for it. Hopefully the writers' room is really good. They got the one girl from Lower Decks, you said.
Yeah,
it's going to be a writer. Yeah, so that'll be cool. Yeah, a lot of great stuff coming. We're looking forward to it. But that being said, that was it. That was episode 7, everybody, of Picard season 3. And we have 3 more reviews coming soon. I have a feeling the final episode that we do the review for of Picard is going to be tough to get through. And it's going to take a while. There's going to be a lot to talk about in that one. Bring your Kleenex, folks. Bring your Kleenex. It's going to be a two-parter. It's going to be messy. It's going to be messy.
Two-parter. Yeah.
Anyway, so we thank you so much for watching and listening to the Random Red Shirt podcast. We are, as always, nothing if not authentic. Are we not, Chris?
We are always authentic. Yes.
That's right. That's right. We are authentic, and you all over the interwebs. We are authentic, my friend. And Jenny, thank you as always for joining us here as we go through this review. We much appreciate it. And we thank you so much for watching and listening to the podcast. Be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram or your favorite podcast platform. Or if you're listening to the audio version of this, be sure to check out the video version over on the YouTubes. So we thank you so much for
like and subscribe.
Yeah, like and there you go. That's right. You heard her, folks. Listen to the lady. She knows what she's talking about. And hit the bell for notifications. But thank you so much. And we will catch you next time right here on the Random Red Shirt podcast.